welcome everybody to Indianapolis's finest Kiwanis Club. Thanks for getting together. It's always fun to get together down here at the Columbia Club, and we got a beautiful day for it. They're getting ready for the parade. Lots of excitement. I love being downtown. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody wants to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Greg, is Greg here? All right, welcome back. I hope not. Are you staying awake? You got the...
Kind of. Thank you. You please be seated. All right. So I appreciate your help with my comments when I was gone on Stonehenge and on the river. And the river is being adopted, that poem, by Viking Cruises to be used as at the last night. So I gave them the rights to use it.
Excellent.
And so that was very nice. And I spoke at that particular event. When I read it, I said, and you should all support Kiwanis. And they all applauded, so I don't know what that meant.
You bring them with you?
Yeah. On my way down today, I was listening to NPR about the debate on the 14th Amendment, so I kind of changed a little bit of what I was going to say as to whether citizens born in the United States, children are citizens, listening to that debate. And but so then I had seen something then I read this before I give my other short comment. A person wrote in about the death of Judge Souter, who died this week and was an independent force on the Supreme Court. He said, a course on the Constitution, what it says and what it means, should be required for high school students and everyone, law school, college students, at every level is necessary. And also humility and civility. And a couple quotes. Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution. That must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties. Abraham Lincoln. And one more. Whatever disagreement that there may be on the scope of the phrase due process of law, there can be no doubt that it embraces the fundamental conception of a fair trial with opportunity to be heard. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Remember those. We are in a country that sometimes forgets things, and that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Greg. I want to introduce some guests that we have with us today. Kevin Robb is the Chief Development Officer at Out. You want to go ahead and stand, Kevin? All right. Chief Development Officer at Outreach, Inc. They received one of our Angel grants this year of $12,500 from the Kiwanis Foundation in December. So,
yeah.
Thanks. You want to?
Great.
And if you want to introduce your guests.
Yeah, I will, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. First of all, thanks for having us here. Have with me Katie Blodgett. She's our Director of Donor Relations, and Andrew Neal, who's our CEO.
Excellent.
So, thank you again. And thank you for the wonderful gift. It coincided with our year-end campaign, and the theme of the campaign is instead of a home for the holidays, it's having your own home for the holidays for our youth. And if you go to our website, look back at the December timeframe, you'll see lots of stories from our youth and how they got housed. First of all, Outreach Inc., we serve youth experiencing homelessness, so to give you context what's going on there. And those funds coincided with our campaign, and it really helped put us over the top and help those youth in need during that time. So,
Good deal.
So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, it's an awesome mission, and it's a topic that just can't get enough attention, I think, with a lot of youth. So now I'd like to introduce Kelly Riley, Chief Outgrowth Officer, there she is, at the Indianapolis Public Schools Educational Foundation. She'll share the impact of Kiwanis Foundation's $5,000 grant.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you all today, and thank you so much for your generous contribution. The Indianapolis Public Schools Foundation was established about 40 years ago and started as a kind of a volunteer-led organization helping with small projects across the district to go on a field trip or things like that. And over the last 6 years, we've really evolved what that looks like, and have come right alongside Superintendent Johnson, who is an incredible leader. We're so lucky to have her to really come alongside and support the 31,000 students, the 71 schools and programs, and the 3,500 staff that we have to try to make a difference in supporting our students. And so the biggest way that we can impact our students is investing in our teachers, and that's a huge area that we're seeing a shortage in teachers across the country, right? And so Kiwanis helped us invest in our student teachers to help them with their ability to join us and come along and support our students. So we're pleased to say that this past spring semester we've supported 35 student teachers, which has impacted probably about 700 students, and we're looking to support several hundred student teachers in the fall. So thank you so much for helping make this possible. We're super grateful, and it takes a community to help support our students and staff and our community of Indianapolis, and things like this wouldn't be possible without everyone in the room today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. All right. All right. We've got one more guest on the way. So then do we want to do Tom? Yeah. Since we've got Tom Dunham here, we have a little. We want to, I think this is a pretty huge milestone, Tom. 50 years with the Kiwanis Club. So, congratulations
Thank you so
on
much.
getting to that, and thank you so much for everything you've done with this club. It's
Haven't done much lately, but
well, you're a legendary name here, so I think you've done a lot.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it.
appreciate
So,
everybody. Thank you.
That's just an awesome milestone. So, hope I can get there. I don't know what year I'm at now. I got to keep track of that at some point. So, all right, I'm going to make some of the announcements. The foundation board is going to meet on Wednesday, May 21st. This month, IOSA's Lunch Bunch will be at 11:30 on Wednesday, the 21st as well. On Thursday, June 12th, we'll learn more on a Zoom about July's WNPA All-Star Game. On July 10th, Dr. Jill Inderstadt joins us on a Zoom to talk about what data tells us about improving Hoosier maternal and child health outcomes. Remember to pencil in the third Thursday of every month for our in-person lunches at the Columbia Club. Next month we'll be back on the 10th floor on July 17th. Is Mary here? Many thanks to Mary Marsh for coordinating the special lunch tour at Victory Field on Wednesday, July 30th. On Thursday, August 7th, Ashley Petrie will join us on Zoom to talk more about her new book, Amazing Indianapolis. So I'm sure we're all listed in that. If you're interested in getting all the events on your phone's calendar, let Kelly know and she can show you how. We now have the calendar available to subscribe, so it'll stay updated on your phone. And it's National Salvation Army Week. I'd like to thank Duke Haddad for his leadership there and invite him to say a few words. Duke?
May 12th through the 19th, National Salvation Army Week. We love our partnership with Kiwanis. We really do. In fact, I have 4 other quick things to mention. Everyone that volunteered on April 24th at Salvation Army to work on quilts, to work on pillowcases and all kinds of different things for people that live and interact with Harbor Light. It's a facility for people that have drug, alcohol, tobacco addictions, etc. And Women's and Children's Center downtown where we have domestic violence. They sleep there every night. I mean, hundreds of people over time. And so please raise your hand if you volunteered. that day at the Salvation Army, and give them a hand. I have several pictures, if you want to see them after the meeting, to show that you were there. So anyway, May 12th through the 19th, National Salvation Army Week. June 6th, does anyone know what June 6th stands for this year? D-Day.
D-Day, yeah.
But it's also D, meaning Donut Day. Did you know in 1938, the President of the United States said Salvation Army, because of what the donut lassies did, volunteers in Indiana, went over in World War I, gave donuts and coffee to all the soldiers. They started a National Salvation Army Donut Day. So they call it Donut Day. It's very commercialized now, but it's very important to us. So if some people want to volunteer to help me and others pass out donuts to some veterans, police, fire, individuals, supporters, let me know, let Kelly know, and we'll make that happen. 2 other shameless plugs. In September, we have a new event. It's really the 2nd year, called Clays for a Cause. We have sporting clays, if anyone shoots sporting clays. Proceeds go to send needy kids to our camp in Bedford, Indiana. Each year, over 400 kids go. They could never go to spend a week at $700 per person a week to go to camp without this support. So I thank you. Lastly, and I have this if you want to read, we have impact statements about things that we do in the state of Indiana, as well as what's called the Central Indiana Area Command. So I have statistics on food, shelter, everything that we do. So bottom line, thank God for Kiwanis International. Thank God for what you do. You are tremendous. We love the Salvation Army. I worked there on my 13th year. I'm also a member of this club. And our partnership, we really appreciate it and need it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Eric.
All right, Roger, you want to come up and make some announcements?
Shut up, Roger. This got wet, I can't really read it. All right. Kiwanis, Indiana District Convention is on Saturday, August 9th in French Lick. For those of you interested, if you haven't signed up, you can go a day or 2 days or the full weekend. Pretty fun events. You meet a lot of people from around the state, other clubs, other presidents, secretaries, treasurers, whatever. Big group. Usually 300 or 400 people there. Matthias was featured on the cover of Indy Star yesterday. There's a copy posted at the refrigerator table if you haven't seen it.
Pardon?
Who's Matthias?
A Lincoln Scholarship.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Thank you. I missed that event, unfortunately. We will be presenting our next check to Riley Children's Foundation for the Parade of Checks. In the meantime, you can always donate items for the Comfort Cart. Our friends within the Indiana Metro Division help to stock neck pillows, fleece blankets, lip balm, deodorant, puzzle books, chewing gum, etc. Pick up a flyer at the front. If you're going down to the convention, you can take a boatload of stuff down with you from other people. They'll collect it there for Riley. And then the big news, save the date for our golf outing, which hadn't been done for 3 years. For September the 23rd at Coffin Golf Club. We appreciate Eric Steele leading this thing. He's got a couple of helpers. So we're looking forward to a big event and hopefully have 100 players there. So come and join us. It's a fun day. Thank you. That's it, Eric.
All right. Give us an update.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce our guest, Stacy Davis, who is visiting us today. Stacy is has been a board member of a number of nonprofits in Indianapolis, including Mary Rig, and currently you're with
Reach for Youth.
Okay, Reach for Youth. Yeah, and she's an attorney by trade and considering joining our group.
Excellent. Welcome. Do you want to do the update on the scholarships committee?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I
so,
don't know
uh,
if you've done that.
we as everyone knows, Kiwanis gives a lot of scholarships through the Abe Lincoln program, through our basketball academic programs for boys and girls, for the football program with the Great Player Awards and scholarships. And I'd like to recognize another guest, Joe Eldridge here from 100 Black Men, another prospective member. Come on in, Joe, and have a seat. We have a scholarships committee that's meeting to discuss just some of these scholarships go back decades, and we just want to review them all and make sure that they're still serving the appropriate purpose. We've started that discussion online, and then we're going to meet in person. And if you're interested, feel free to contact Kelly, and she'll get you connected.
How many scholarships, how many dollars do we give away every year?
I don't know the total. Oh,
I'd say 80,000 or more.
That's about right.
more than
yeah.
90,000. Yep. And sometimes, since they have changed over time, for instance, basketball championships now happen during spring break. So one of our scholarship recipients was off on spring break, couldn't receive a scholarship, and I went out to Lutheran High School yesterday and gave a $1,000 check to Reese Kumler, who will be attending IU next fall. He will not be playing basketball anymore, but he's a great student and going to be studying business. So, but if you're interested in the scholarships committee, please contact myself or Laura or Kelly. Thanks.
Chuck, you want to give us an update on the football?
Sure.
Well, I know it's hard to think about football when it's feeling like summer out, but we've made our initial contact this week, I think, with the Colts, and as many of you know, our football banquet with Marion County student athletes is first week of December, where it'll be cold then, but that's Indiana, and the Colts released their schedule this week. And mid-season they'll be in Germany, so that's unusual. And right, and I don't remember exactly where. Berlin. Thank you, Roger. And we've got a Monday night football game, which I think is Christmas week this year, so that'll be interesting. And I believe they will be out of town during our banquet. That's they're sometimes in town, out of town. We can't control that, obviously. So mark your calendars for the first week of December for the Marion County athletes and the Colts banquet.
Tell us about the girls' flag.
Oh, Girls Flag is a really big up-and-coming program, and there's a lot of high school. I don't know how many teams are up. 30 teams.
They have 60.
60? Oh,
Trying to
see,
get to 100.
they're going up every week, and girls flag is really a big deal in the high schools now. They play, they throw down. So they are some athletes. So they're really Colts are really pushing that. It started a year or two ago, really promoting those programs, and they attended our banquet last year, and were represented in the program too. So this year, I'm sure they'll have a bigger promotion and a bigger presence. So,
Thanks, Chuck.
yeah. Anything else? Good.
Good.
You bet.
Laura, I'll introduce our speaker.
Yes. I'm introducing Liz McCoy and Toby.
Oh, Toby Stark.
Stark. Yeah. From the Marion County Commission on Youth, here today to give us updates, tell us about all of the organizations that they work with to support the development of youth in our community. So welcome, and this is the material that she brought to help you have a better understanding.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Laura, appreciate it. So great to see you all. Thank you so much for inviting us here today. I'm going to give you just a quick overview. I did hand out some materials in our latest publication. Very, very coincidental that we're here together, so glad we could do that. We didn't plan that, but it's going to work out really well.
They did.
Oh, okay, so there's a mastermind involved. So, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Marion County Commission on Youth. We've been around for over 30 years serving Marion County in total, greater Indianapolis. We are an intermediary. We were originally created by the legislature to try and sort of provide glue across the youth serving organizations in Marion County and to sort of support the growth of the system of programs across the city. It didn't take too long before they realized that if it stayed as part of the legislature, it wasn't going to go very far. So that is not my testimonial on the current or prior legislature, but on how efficient the private sector is. So we became our own standalone 501c3 in 1993, 30 some odd years ago. John Brandon, who you may know, legacy, retired as our founding director after 30 years, and I stepped in 18 months ago. So I'm excited to be part of MCCOY and continue the great work that's been done. So as I said, we are an intermediary. We are not necessarily in direct service, although every now and then we sort of dip our toe in. But what does that mean? We serve hundreds of youth serving organizations across the county through various means. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So our mission is to champion the positive development of youth. We do that through community and systems change. So we focus at the systems level. We're looking for ways to improve the entire network and all of the supports that go into creating a good community for our youth. We do that in a couple of ways. We support growth, innovation, and sustainability in the direct service organizations, and then we try to inform the system, and I'm going to touch a little bit on that with this new report we just released, to make sure that we're all making good decisions and really understand what's happening in our city. Just a quick laundry list of some of the programs we do, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the report. We do advocacy as opposed to lobbying. We are an advocate. We try to educate, to bring facts and knowledge to those making decisions and setting laws in our city. As you can imagine, well, it was also a long session, but it was a very busy year for us, trying to remind them of the youth perspective and the impact of some of the things that they were doing. Some of our students are also very civically engaged, and we work with them to help make them sort of better at participating in legislature. They're very proud. For example, they have been working for years, this group of students, to get fentanyl test strips legalized, and that happened in this legislative session. So that may seem small, but to them it was huge, because for them that's about intervention and preventing some of their friends from dying. So that's the kind of work we do in advocacy. We do a lot of training of youth workers, as well as we support we mentor organizations. We are the fiscal sponsor for a number of startup or smaller nonprofits across the city, so that we can provide some of our experience on the business side, as well as sort of just running a nonprofit. So we play that role. We have a couple of really exciting new projects. We have the Resilience Project, which is in the school systems. I'm sorry, it's not an IPS yet. We're piloting in Warren and Pike Township. The goal is always to get to IPS, right? Because that's where you have the biggest impact. But we're excited about that. That's a mental wellness program training teachers in how to, one, better self-care, but also how to recognize what's happening in their classrooms and respond. We have a project going right now on 2-generational breaking the cycle of poverty with the GLIC philanthropies and the GLIC residential properties. Again, that's about training their staff to be better at what they do serving youth on those residential properties. Let me just quickly go through this. One of our biggest programs is the Summer Youth Program. You may be familiar with the Summer Youth Program Fund, which is a group of philanthropist foundations across the city. I think I believe there are 10 in the program this year that fund 267 summer programs in the city. We are the sort of operational support for that program, so we provide resources for families to connect with summer programs. We provide training to almost 200 new youth workers who are stepping into the employment world for the first time, supporting our summer camps. We literally train them how to get a paycheck and where to put it, because most of them have never stepped inside of a bank, which is actually fairly common these days. But so we do a lot of that training. We also facilitate, we'll take 400 kids to the Children's Museum on June 25th, so you may want to avoid or be in that area, up to you. But for most of them, it's the first time and maybe the only time that they'll ever get to the Children's Museum, because it's just not something that's within the scope of their daily lives. So if you want to see something magical, you want to see the child who sees that dinosaur at the top, if you've been in there, and for them, well, actually it's quite sweet. For them, it's why is he not falling? Who's going to catch him? So it's quite cute, because you're like, it's not real, but it's real. And so we do a lot with the summer youth program. So we're really stepping into that part of our world right now. The other thing that we do, and then I'm going to switch gears real quick here, is we convene leaders across the system for lots of different things. One of those organizations is called the Early Intervention Planning Council. That is a council that exists by ordinance in this city. It is focused on early intervention, preventing child abuse, improving the outcomes for young children across the city. By ordinance, MCCOY is the organizer of that council. So we do the best we can. It's been around for about 17 years. So that is Early Intervention Planning Council. This year, the council created, let me talk a little bit more about them at first. So, like I said, they've been around for a while. They're very focused on eliminating child abuse, neglect, and juvenile involvement in the legal system. And so thinking a lot about what can we do as a system. That council it involves leaders from across the system. The co-chair right now is Maggie Lewis, who is on City County Council, obviously, is the majority leader, was the president, also Boys and Girls Club, as well as Department of Child Services, but also leaders from across. The membership on that council is dictated by the ordinance to make sure that we have got the right people at the table. IMPD sits on this council. Superintendents, Dr. Young just stepped off. We have a new superintendent stepping in, so that we really do have all the right people at the table. So this year, one of the questions that came up as we were sort of thinking last fall about what do we need to do next as a council to make sure that the whole system is doing a better job. And what we realized is that we are surrounded by anecdotes and testimonial, all of which is true, but all of which is one story. And what we really needed was for the whole system to understand the magnitude of the problem we have with children who lack permanency in Marion County. And we realized that depending on where you were in the system, you had a different perspective, whether it was the unhoused youth, whether it was juvenile system involved youth, whether it was children in need of services, which is where Department of Child Services comes in. We had only that sort of narrow view, and yet the children overlap most of those, right? You can be all three at the same time, involved in the juvenile system, unhoused, as well as child in need of services, which is an official term called CHINS. But our system did not see the whole picture. So we created a report on the state of child permanency in Marion County. We realized a lot of things when we put this book together. One, there's a lot of data. So if you're a data person, start here, but don't stop. But we also realize there's a lot of inconsistency in the data, and there's a lot of missing data. So I'm going to go through at a really high level some of the highlights from that report. But one of our takeaways you're going to see is probably the first bullet point on the second to last page of key takeaways is we need better data to really get at this challenge. Don't get me started because I'm a data person and there's not good data. So anyway, so the purpose of this whole report was to sort of raise awareness and get a level set on the data and the information around children who lack permanency. So just to sort of put it in perspective, and again, this is a dense book, I'm not going to do it all. So first of all, population of impact. There are about 1.6 million children, meaning under the age of 18 across the state. 15% of those live here in Marion County, so about 240,000. Of those 240,000, somewhere around 5,000, we don't actually know because we don't count it correctly, or lack permanency, meaning they do not have a stable home, right? So because of the way we count, we double count a lot, so I'm guessing it's around 5,000 children in our city right now lack permanency in their homes. Just a quick sort of put Indianapolis in perspective, if you will, versus the state. Not that it's better, or well, it is worse, but not that their demographic or their profile is worse. It's just different, and it means that we have different challenges here in Marion County than they may have in other parts of the state, right? So first and foremost, Marion County children on average are younger. So what does that mean? The younger the child, the more services we need, right? Sort of the more medical services, the more intervention, the more support a parent needs. So we have a different level of need for our support system for our children in Marion County than you might see in other parts of Indiana. So that's important. The other thing about Indianapolis, which you know well, is we are very diverse, and we are very, very diverse relative to the rest of the state. What does that mean for our kids? It means we're dealing with more cultures, we're dealing with more sort of parenting history, more family circumstance, and more differences across those things, which means our system needs to be more adaptable and more sensitive to the unique needs of the kids who live in our city. The other thing, not surprisingly, on average, our households are poor, so we have more low-income households, and our cost of living, of course, is higher because we are the city, and that especially applies to housing. Right, so all of these factors make it a little bit unique and different to address the challenge of permanency in Marion County than in other parts of our state. Compared to the data here does compare to the nation in total. We are on average younger than children across the country. Right, so in some ways we could be leading in modeling how to support children who are at risk for losing permanency because we deal with a more intense issue here because our children are younger. Our percents are about the same in terms of the intensity on average anyway. All right, so just sort of breaking the numbers down a little bit more, right, in any given month. Our most recent data is 2023, depending on what part of the data you're looking at, but we had to go back to get a common denominator. We had to go back to 2023 so that we could have comparative data in the same time period. On average, there are about a little over 2,000 children each month who are not in a permanent stable home in our city. 48% of those were Black, versus 31% of the population. Interestingly, and not in this, I won't talk about it necessarily, but it's in the data, when a child is removed from the home, or when a child receives a designation of children in need of services, they can remain in their home or they can be removed from their home. It is more likely that a white child is removed from their home, interestingly. So that's another key takeaway. Like, what do we know? What do we think about that? It speaks a lot to the density of family, perhaps. Okay, 4,500 is the number of unhoused children. Again, we have to roll back a few years, which is 27% of Indiana's unhoused children, right? So a much higher percent of our kids on a relative basis, right? We have 15% of the children, but 27% of those that are unhoused here in Indianapolis, and a little over 700 are in the juvenile justice system. I spend a lot of time thinking about juvenile justice. We have a new program with the juvenile justice system, so I've studied this quite a bit. It is actually quite unique and fascinating that 156 of our children in the juvenile system are under the age of 13. We have states in this country that would not even allow that legally to happen. Would be an amazing goal if we were one of those states that did not incarcerate children under the age of 13. Okay, children, so let me do a quick sidebar here on the definition here of children in need of services, just so that we're familiar. It is an official term of the Department of Children's Services. There are a lot of reasons why a child might be removed from their home, including the top two are abuse or neglect, or substance or misuse by a caregiver. So that could be a parent, whoever it is that is their guardian. So those are the top two. There are a plethora of other reasons why we may decide that a child is safer outside their home than inside their home, and that is in that presentation, in that book as well. So looking at the sort of little over 2,000 of our children who are designated as children in need of services, 18% are left in their home, right? So now they're in a supervisory sort of oversight situation with the Department of Children's Services, but 82% are removed from their home. One of the things that you may not realize is that does not necessarily mean that they're put in a strange situation, right? A good chunk of those children, a good percent of them, a little over 40%, are in a relative's home. Right, so that may be where they go, but another 37% are in a non-relative foster care situation. So, so for the most part, if they're out of their home, we know for sure they're in a different situation. We've disrupted their lives in some way, and that's important. The other thing to keep in mind is if they're removed from their home, they're likely to be on the younger side. So if any of you are in psychology, you understand the younger they are, the more traumatic those disruptions are. So we're talking about under the age of 3 is the most significant population of children that are disrupted from their homes. So we think a lot about, in general, I think a lot about these things, but the Early Intervention Planning Council thinks about how do we stop that trauma, especially because it's affecting our youngest, who are the most traumatized by those disruptions. And so these kinds of things come into play. On average, when a child is removed from the home, it's almost 2 years before they are again in a stable situation. And over those 2 years, on average, they've moved 3 times, which means 4 disruptions. The original displacement, and then they've moved 3 more times on average. So that's 4 traumas in 2 years, starting under the age of 3. So this is a situation that then I'm in a meeting with Chief Bailey, who says, well, no wonder 10 years later, 15 years later, our juvenile delinquency numbers go up when you see a spike in new CHINS cases, children in need of services. You could predict almost perfectly that 10 or 13 years later, we're going to see a spike in juvenile delinquency unless we disrupt the result of that trauma that's been created with that disruption. And that disruption's not just their home. For the most part, they've also moved schools. They've lost their friend group, their church group, their family situation. And so all of this picture starts to get very, very real when you put it all together. So stability of placement, if they must be removed, which, let's give the system credit, pretty sure they're taking care of these kids and getting them where they need to be. How do we quickly get them to a stable situation if in fact we have to remove them is a question that we wrestle with. So anyway, I just did a really quick drive-by pass-through of all the data that's in that book. We come to the end and say, now what? When we think about working with our young children, obviously there are things like protective factors, things that we could do to prevent some of these things. Some of that has to do with policy, legislative policies, and the way we approach supporting and raising children as a village, if you will. And some of that has to do with understanding better the risk factors that lead to this. So for example, we know from national and international studies that a child of a parent who has suffered from adverse childhood experiences is more likely to also suffer from them. Our system does not connect those two pieces of data. right? So we do not take the moment to say, this 3-year-old child is here because parents are dealing with their own trauma from their own childhood, and we do not intervene then in that space, right? So that is one of the things that we are very focused on at this point is how do we intervene more effectively by recognizing the context of where these kids are coming from. So that's just an example. Other risk factors is we do not have sufficient healthcare system to support families, right? So if you're in a family that cannot afford the medical care for your child, guess what one of the conditions of removing a child from the home is, right? It's sufficient and adequate health care, but our system isn't there to support that. So we almost sort of have this unavoidable cycle that happens, right? So healthcare is a very important piece of this. Understanding better the connection of the guardian or the parent adverse childhood experiences, and then just the situation of child poverty. The fact that it is very expensive here, we have a lower income level here puts them at risk for intervention. So those are some of the sort of high level categories of things we think about. And then there's all the now what, right? So when you get a bunch of data nerds and research people and academics in a room, there's always the, what? This data didn't tell us this. What more can we do? So, a lot more work to be done in terms of making sure that the data that is available is put together in a way that we all understand the situation that's happening here, but also that we've identified information that would be critical to doing a better job, right? Intervening to getting these children more quickly into stable, permanent situations. That's absolutely one of them. The other is how early can we intervene before we're in crisis, before we're at the point where we have no choice but to remove that child. Because the minute you remove that child, you've introduced a new trauma, and we hope that it's a better path from there for that child, but we don't know that. So could we, in fact, have enough information and the resources to connect earlier when they're at risk but not yet in crisis, to avoid that altogether. Obviously, there's a lot of sort of intangible and some very tangible social influences that are involved here. Our system is inherently biased, and whether that's because of socioeconomics, whether that's because of race, education levels, there are all kinds of things that disadvantage those of us who grow up with the right resources or with the right connections to avoid these situations. So that is something that affects all cities, but because of our diversity, probably more so here in Indianapolis. And then I think the other is, we're so careful here because we work so closely with the Department of Child Services. What they do is critical. It saves children's lives. But the impact and the trauma of removal is very, very real. And so to the extent we can put them out of business or move their business to prevention would be wonderful without criticizing the way that they're doing the best that they can. So starting to think about how we educate people to really understand the impact of and the trauma of removal, and especially in these longer tail cases, which is a higher percent of our cases now are over a year removed from their home, and we're moving them multiple times. So lots and lots and lots and lots of work left to do, but this is where Early Intervention Planning Council is sort of put their stake in the ground as a starting point for a whole series of conversations across the city. So one example of what we do, I did share with you the actual report. It's also on our website if you want to share that with anyone. We are doing a series of community conversations around this information. Bringing groups together. I'm doing a similar conversation, probably a lot deeper dive with the juvenile justice system, which is the whole system together in the same room, which is critical, right? To have the judges from the family court in the same room as the prosecutor, as the defender's office, as probation, as IMPD, having this conversation about what could we do differently. We just started that conversation at the new, has yet to be open Family and Youth Intervention Center. Has anybody been there? You guys been to the new center, which is part of DCS? It's opened behind, which I did not, I somehow missed the closing and moving of I knew the juvenile system had closed, but I didn't realize the building was literally a ghost town. There are weeds in the parking lot, but behind there, the old detention center has now been converted. They have 25, actually I think they have 20 24-hour beds and 5 40-day beds for youth between the ages of 12 and 17 who must, for whatever reason, not sleep in their own home that night. And so that center opens, I believe, in June. I was just over there. But that is, that's sort of one of the, how do we provide an outlet? Because a child who does not have a safe place to sleep is doing something else and is going to end up in the system somewhere. And so creating, even in this very small way, 25 beds doesn't even touch what we need, but at least it's 25 safe beds that a child could lay their head on. So there are some things happening, and the justice system is thinking about it and prioritizing it, and we'll see where we go. But anyway, happy to answer questions.
So the new building you're talking about, is that the Justice?
Yeah, it's at the,
So, yeah.
it's not at the Justice, it's at the old, on Keystone, where the old,
Okay,
the
Keystone,
former
on
family.
Fifth, yeah.
So right behind, Edna, is it right behind it? No, yes, I think so, it's right behind Edna Martin, right? So the old detention center has now been converted to,
Okay.
it's called Family and Youth Intervention Center, FYI. And it is technically part of DCS, although they're trying not to lead with that, so as not to intimidate the young people, so that they feel like it's a safe place to come. So
Is that sort of like Stopover? Remember that organization here in town that used?
yeah, a little bit. Same concept. Same concept. Yeah. But these kids aren't.
Those were adolescents.
Yeah. I mean, these are too, and these, this is is not juvenile. These are not juvenile involved kids, and it doesn't mean that they haven't been, but that's not why they're there. They're literally, I need a safe place to be.
Yeah.
And somebody got them to the center just for a night, so they could take a deep breath, maybe get a good meal and a good night's sleep, and an adult to help them navigate where to go next. We wish we had. They tried to get 40 beds, of which 20 would have been 20 plus night beds, which is a whole different level of care. Anyway, funding is what it is. We'll take what we get. So, yeah.
Do you have any idea how many beds there are or homes there are for aged out foster kids in Marion County?
Somebody knows the answer to that question. We work really closely with Foster Success, but I don't happen to know. What I do know is we're about 60% of the capacity we need. Yeah.
60%.
Yeah.
So there used to be Youth for America and then Fostering Independence, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if there were any.
Yeah, no, they're there, and there are certainly some others. But I am on the board of the Marion County System of Care Collaborative, and they start every executive meeting with they bed trade. And it's like, does anyone have a bed for a 12-year-old boy? I'm in crisis. I mean, when I first started at MCCOY, if anyone knows where our office are, we're at 16th and Harding. So we're right in the community. And I came away from that very first meeting, and I was driving home. I'm on the west side, and I was like, every 6th house, because that's the statistic, every 6th house has a child that needs a bed and can't go anywhere. I literally had like panic attack about knowing that I was driving by a crisis that I could do nothing about. But so I think it's about 60%, but I don't know the actual number off the top of my head. Sorry. Yeah.
You probably touched on this already, but I guess I wanted to know a little bit more about how MCCOY became connected with the, did you call it EPIC or?
Or EIPC, yeah. So it's interesting. So we often get this call. So the city sort of uses us as this intermediary to convene groups. And I won't say this is our first one. It's certainly not the only one, but it's sort of the role that we play for the city. So that's why it happened. And then we get written into the ordinance, and then my staff goes, really? These are hard. Yeah, they came to us. So we just launched a pilot for Juvenile Advisory Council, which is an amazing program. I'm super excited about, but that was the same thing. The juvenile leadership came to us and asked if we would be the coordinator of that. Now, you know, it's sort of interesting because surely they have leaders in their system that could do it, but often the independent nonprofit can push through barriers that we don't have that they have to at least get something going. And then once it's successful, you know, then the hope is, oh, okay, it works now. Now we can put some money behind it and it becomes a system. The other big one that we have done for the last 8 years is the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. It's a group of high school students. This year's cohort is 25 students from 18 high schools across the city, and they advise the mayor. But we are the coordinating body for the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council because we can do that. And the mayor's office can't necessarily at any given time do that. Laugh. That was not a commentary on Mayor Joe. It's just the system is a little rough sometimes. So we organize that. So that's just that's just a role that we play for the system.
One more question.
Yeah.
Budgeting, where do you get financing from?
Yeah, great question. We are about 80% grant funded. Lilly Endowment is our single biggest, as you're probably not surprised to know. The city, we have contracts with the city for a number of the programs that we run. CICF, the Indianapolis Foundation. We are a United Way agency. They actually have a special unique fund that covers us and I think 2 other of their 83 agencies, which is systems level work. United Way right now is supporting our program called the Resilience Project, which is the pilot we have in Warren and Pike Township. So it wraps very much thematically around the different pieces of our mission, but it is mostly the great big funders that come in, and then we have some corporate partnerships. We have an amazing partnership right now. Speaking of all the sports in the room, I'm going to bring basketball to the conversation because I feel like it's appropriate. The WNBA Legacy Committee, which is hosting the All-Star Game this year, came to us last fall and asked if we would create a WNBA All-Star Ambassadors Program. So we have 25 amazing high school women from across the state, most of whom are from Central Indiana, who've been, they come together monthly. We partner with the Fever Players, which is just my thing. I'm such a fangirl. So anyway, so Saturday, day after tomorrow, look for the High Five Club on the court. That will be us. That'll be the All-Star Ambassadors. So that's a corporate partnership that we're super excited about. And in exchange, they are in part renovating our space for us. So thank you very much to the Legacy Committee.
We'll be looking to diversify with more community partners as well outside of the large funds.
Yes, absolutely. Let me introduce Toby Stark is our development person. Yeah, no, I think it's a model for how a nonprofit can help bring to life a community interest of a corporate partner. We've had a great time working with Pacer Sports and Entertainment on this program and really showing them that, one, we can move as fast as they can, more faster in some cases. I play basketball. But also that we can do some things they can't do because we know the community and we're connected to the community. So it's kind of it's a fun model, we hope. So thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Well, let's thank Liz. Liz, the Kiwanis Foundation of Indianapolis is making a contribution in your honor to the Riviera Club Foundation.
Thank you.
For their water safety education and learn to swim programs for low-income youth.
I love that.
So,
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that program.
I always try to end a meeting with a quip from the One America signboard.
I have a question. Could you tell us?
Yeah,
There's a story behind your boots.
It's the month of May. You gotta step up, right? So doesn't everybody have a pair? Come on.
Does any other 500 Festival Foundation board member have those shoes?
No, I don't think so. My calendar has no 5th month. I'm dismayed.